If you are in my creative coding class, one of the first things you need to do is get set up with GitHub. This is a website that you can create an account on and that you can use to share code. And that's what we're going to be doing. So this video is going to be hopefully pretty brief just to show you the basics of what that is. So let me switch over to my scene, and I'm logged into GitHub already. I can't show you the process of creating an account because I already have an account and I don't really want to make more. So this is my GitHub account. And well, this is my homepage on GitHub. GitHub is kind of organized in some ways like a social media kind of site where you have a profile and you can comment on other people's projects and you can share projects. But the main workflow of GitHub is editing code. So you write some code and other people can borrow it, can tweak it, can use it, can send it back to you to improve it, and do all kinds of things like that. I don't use it a whole lot. I'm not a professional programmer, but I do use it some, and you can see the contributions I made are highlighted on this cool looking little histogram thing. So in my creative coding class, we're going to be doing several projects, and I have created a repository, which is what this is, what I'm looking at here, to show you an example setup for your GitHub repository. I recommend doing something very much like this. You could also make separate repositories for each project. Some people like to do it that way, but I'd really only recommend that if you're already used to using GitHub and you kind of know the differences between those. If you're just starting from scratch, this is a good way to start, I think. So what you can do with the repository on GitHub is the point of sharing it is to make it possible for people to share and to borrow and to make their own. So what I would recommend is after you've created your GitHub account, in that process, I don't remember, it might require you to make a sample project or make like a placeholder repository. Go ahead and do that. But whenever you're set up and ready to go, you see this button up here, it says fork. I cannot, as it says in this pop-out, I can't fork this repository because I own it. But fork is GitHub's terminology for make a copy of this thing, but make it my own. So you kind of branch it off. So think of it like a forking path. So this repository that I created has been like marching along, and then you're going to take it off in a new direction. That's what I want you to do, and I think that's a good place to start. Once you do that, you'll get a repository that looks exactly like this. So it'll have these 5 folders in it, a license, and this README document. And that's all you need to get started. Now in this class, we haven't even gotten into like what code is or what kinds of languages we're going to be using or anything like that. So a lot of this will not make sense to you yet if you're a brand new beginner, and that's fine. But I do want to show you a little bit of just how GitHub is organizing these things. Let's take a look at the bot project, which is probably going to be your first project you do. There are, in this top part here, I can see that there are 2 files in this repository, readme.md and rar.json. Readme.md is displayed right here, and that's a convention within GitHub. If you have a file called readme.md, it's a file in a language called Markdown, and that's going to show up as like the home page of that folder whenever you view it. And so this is what I'm talking about in the assignment descriptions when I ask you to submit a link to your GitHub code with a well-written README file explaining what you've done. This right here is not a well-written README file. This is just a placeholder basically. But it's written in a way that hopefully you can start with and you can tweak to make your own. What I'd recommend is just edit it on the web. You can download this, you can work with GitHub from your computer and sync up and down. That's a whole process that I'm not going to get into right now, but that is a way that most people actually use GitHub. But for a beginner, I think this is just as well. So you click the edit button and you can start writing. And you can see how the syntax for Markdown works. Markdown is basically a streamlined and much faster version of HTML, faster in terms of writing. Like you can write it very quickly once you get used to it. And you can see here just a few links and some writing, and that's about it. You can embed images. You can do a lot of other things with it. You can always preview the changes to see how it looks. But what I would recommend is once you're done with your bot project and having forked my repository, go to your bot project README page and rewrite this to be about your bot. I would expect more than what I've written here from you because, again, this is kind of a placeholder, but this is where I would recommend writing that. And then this project has 1 code file. This is a code file in a format, a language called JSON or JavaScript. I don't remember what the O stands for. In any case, it's a kind of database type language for JavaScript, but it's how what I'm going to recommend you use to create your first bot. And this is the source code for this particular bot, this Monster Noises bot that I made. And so I've edited this file, and I mean, you could edit my file and replace the code here with yours and then rename it to be after your bot. Like you could do that if you'd like. Sometimes it's like hard to see how to rename things, but let's see, can I go here? Yeah, so you can rename the file that way. I would definitely recommend renaming it to be yours, and this is probably the easiest way to do it again. So after you've made your bot, rename it to be something like that, your bot, and then paste your JSON code here. We'll be creating JSON code in Cheap Bots Done Quick using that interface, but that will give you JSON code that you can bring back here to share through GitHub. That's the basics of how to work with GitHub. For the other projects, there will be similar workflows I would recommend. So once you get up to the clock project is something I'll recommend you use P5.js for, and you can host and share your code all through P5.js. But I like having an extra space to write like this README gives you in GitHub. So this is, again, what I'm going to recommend when you get to that point. And that's it for GitHub. If you want to know more about GitHub, there's lots of things you can learn about it, lots of courses you can take. I often like, I learn a lot from Daniel Schiffman, who does this YouTube channel called The Coding Train, and so he has a whole series on Git and GitHub, and it's great. So if you want to learn more about how to really use GitHub, this is where I would recommend you take a look. Or if the things I was explaining didn't make sense, try Daniel Schiffman. He explains things really, really well. So I would say, take a look at what he has to offer. Yeah, and that's it for GitHub. I want to keep these videos pretty short, so this is going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching, and if you have questions, let me know. Thanks.